this episode, we start with an idea that sounds advanced at first, but becomes very practical once you break it down, and that is how cyber threat intelligence, CTI, can help a security team make better daily decisions. Many beginners hear the word intelligence and imagine secret reports, elite analysts, or dramatic warnings about major attacks, but most useful intelligence work is much more grounded than that. It is really about learning from relevant information so that you can understand threats more clearly and respond more wisely. In security operations, that matters because teams are always making choices about what to watch, what to prioritize, what to investigate, and what to improve. If those choices are made without context, they can become reactive, inconsistent, or wasteful. When CTI is used well, it helps defenders connect what they are seeing inside their environment to what is happening in the broader threat landscape, and that makes everyday decisions stronger, faster, and more focused. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.Me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. The first thing to understand is that CTI is not just a pile of threat facts collected from the outside world. It is processed, interpreted, and relevant information about threats, threat actors, behaviors, methods, or conditions that can help someone make a better decision. That last part is the most important. Intelligence has value because it supports action, not because it sounds impressive or contains a large amount of technical detail. A list of suspicious addresses, a note about a threat actor's preferred behavior, or a pattern involving stolen credentials is not automatically intelligence just because it exists. It becomes intelligence when it is shaped into something meaningful for a specific purpose. For example, if a security team learns that a financially motivated actor has recently targeted payroll systems through credential abuse, that information can help the team decide what to monitor more closely, what controls deserve review, and what events should rise in priority during triage. A useful beginner distinction is the difference between information and intelligence. Information is raw material. It may include reports, indicators, warnings, observations, incident notes, suspicious patterns, or public discussion of attacks. Intelligence is what emerges when that material is evaluated, organized, and connected to a decision that matters. Many new learners assume that gathering more information automatically makes an organization safer, but that is not how it works. Without interpretation and relevance, more information can simply create more distraction. In fact, one of the easiest mistakes in security operations is treating every new threat report as though it deserves the same amount of attention. Strong operations depend on filtering what is useful from what is merely interesting. CTI helps with that by asking practical questions. Does this apply to our environment? Does it affect assets or users we care about? Does it match patterns we are seeing internally? And does it change what we should do next? This is why CTI matters so much for security operations. Security teams are not only trying to understand what happened after an event, they are also trying to prepare, prioritize, and decide where their limited attention should go before incidents become larger. Good intelligence helps them reduce guesswork. It can highlight which threats are most relevant, which actor behaviors are common right now, which weaknesses are being exploited in the wild, and which internal events deserve a second look because they fit a broader pattern. That kind of guidance matters because operations teams often work under pressure, and pressure can lead to shallow decisions if context is missing. A team may overreact to something noisy but low risk, or underreact to something subtle but highly important. CTI gives defenders another layer of perspective. It helps them see whether an alert is just strange, or whether it resembles behavior already known to be meaningful and dangerous. One of the simplest ways to think about CTI is to see it as a way of connecting outside knowledge to inside activity. Outside knowledge might include known attacker behavior, recent campaigns, common targeting methods, or shifts in what kinds of organizations are being affected. Inside activity includes your own alerts, logs, suspicious events, access changes, and system behavior. The power of intelligence appears when those two worlds meet. If a team sees unusual login behavior inside its environment, and also knows that similar patterns are being used in current account takeover campaigns. The internal activity becomes more meaningful. If an organization learns that threat actors are increasingly targeting cloud administration changes, then a strange permissions event inside that organization deserves closer attention than it might have before. Intelligence becomes valuable when it sharpens interpretation. It does not replace internal visibility. Instead, it gives internal visibility more meaning by showing how local events may fit into broader patterns of threat activity. Not all CTI serves the same purpose, and beginners should understand that because it explains why some intelligence feels broad while some feels immediate. Some intelligence is strategic, meaning it helps leaders understand larger risk trends, likely threat directions, and the kinds of actors or campaigns most relevant to the organization over time. Some is more operational, meaning it focuses on ongoing threat activity, active campaigns, and likely adversary behavior that may affect defenders in the nearer term. Some is tactical, meaning it supports day-to-day detection and response by highlighting methods, techniques, indicators, and patterns that can be used in monitoring and triage. These categories matter not because you need to memorize labels, but because they show that intelligence supports decisions at different levels. A senior leader deciding where to invest effort needs a different kind of intelligence than an analyst deciding whether a new alert should be escalated. Strong organizations understand that difference and use CTI in ways that fit the decision being made. A very practical lesson is that good intelligence is relevant intelligence. A warning about a threat targeting industrial systems may matter a great deal to one organization and very little to another. A report about identity abuse in cloud environments may be central to one team's daily work and mostly background knowledge for someone else. Relevance depends on what the organization owns, what it values, how it operates, and which kinds of access or data would cause the most harm if misused. Beginners sometimes assume that security maturity means paying attention to every major threat report, but mature teams usually do the opposite. They filter aggressively and focus on what affects their real environment. That does not mean they ignore the wider world. It means they connect it to their own mission. CTI becomes stronger when a team asks whether the threat aligns with its industry, technology choices, business workflows, data sensitivity, attack surface, and existing weaknesses rather than simply reacting to whatever sounds urgent in a headline. Another reason CTI strengthens security operations is that it improves prioritization. Operations teams see many events, and not all of them deserve the same response. Intelligence helps defenders decide which events may deserve more urgency because they align with known malicious behavior, current campaigns, or relevant actor methods. That does not mean intelligence should automatically raise everything to critical status. Instead, it provides another factor in deciding what deserves attention first. If an alert matches activity currently associated with a threat actor that frequently targets your sector, that context matters. If a suspicious access pattern overlaps with a method that has recently been used to move from initial entry to data theft, that matters too. The event is no longer just a strange technical occurrence. It becomes a possible part of a known risk pattern. This helps analysts move beyond surface-level triage and make stronger operational decisions rooted in evidence plus context instead of evidence alone. CTI also helps improve detection by making monitoring more purposeful. A team that understands what relevant threat actors tend to do can design its attention around behaviors that actually matter. Instead of watching everything equally, it can focus more carefully on signals tied to likely abuse, known movement patterns, privilege misuse, or sensitive access activity that fits current threat behavior. This matters because detection quality is not just about how much data you collect. It is about whether you are looking for the right things in the right places with the right level of urgency. Intelligence helps reduce blind searching. It gives defenders a more informed idea of what patterns deserve extra visibility. That can support better alert tuning, better use cases, and better decisions about where to spend analyst effort. For beginners, the most important takeaway is that intelligence does not make detection automatic. It makes detection more informed by helping the team understand which behaviors are more likely to signal real danger. A related strength of CTI is that it supports better incident response once something suspicious is already underway. When a team is dealing with an event, intelligence can help frame what kind of actor may be involved, what goals they may have, what behavior might come next, and which systems or data may need extra attention. That does not turn response into a simple checklist, and it does not eliminate uncertainty. What it does is reduce the sense of operating in the dark. If intelligence suggests that an actor often uses stolen credentials, expands privileges quietly, and then moves towards sensitive repositories, responders can watch for those patterns more deliberately. If intelligence suggests quick monetization through fraud or extortion, that shapes urgency in a different way. The point is not to force every incident into a pre-written story. The point is to use relevant intelligence as a guide so that response decisions are informed by patterns already observed in the wider threat environment. There is also an important warning for beginners, because CTI can be misused just as easily as it can be used well. One common mistake is collecting too much intelligence without any clear plan for how it supports operations. In that case, reports pile up, feeds multiply, and analysts become surrounded by information that sounds serious but rarely changes action. Another mistake is treating intelligence as automatically trustworthy or universally relevant. Not every report is accurate, and not every threat detail applies to every environment. Some intelligence is outdated, some is too broad, and some is interesting but not useful. A third mistake is focusing too heavily on flashy threat names and dramatic stories, while ignoring the quieter intelligence that helps with routine but important operational choices. Strong use of CTI depends on discipline. Teams need to ask whether the intelligence is timely, credible, relevant, and connected to real decisions. If those questions are skipped, intelligence becomes noise dressed up as sophistication. Another valuable point is that intelligence works best when it feeds a cycle of learning rather than a one-time decision. A team learns from outside reports, compares them to internal observations, adjusts monitoring or triage based on what matters, and then learns again from the results. If a report suggested a threat behavior that later appears in the environment, that reinforces the usefulness of that intelligence. If repeated reports never connect to anything relevant internally, that may suggest the team is paying attention to the wrong material or that its environment faces a different threat mix. Over time, this cycle improves operational judgment. It helps teams become less reactive and more selective. For a beginner, this is encouraging because it means intelligence is not only for large organizations with dedicated specialists. Even a smaller team can benefit from asking simple but disciplined questions about relevance, pattern matching, and decision impact. The value comes from the thinking process, not just from the volume of threat material consumed. A simple example brings all of this together. Imagine a security team notices several failed login attempts followed by successful access to a cloud administration account at an unusual hour. On its own, that event deserves review. But now imagine the team also knows from recent intelligence that threat actors targeting similar organizations have been abusing stolen credentials to enter cloud environments, make quiet permission changes, and create persistence before moving towards sensitive data. That intelligence does not prove the event is malicious, but it changes the operational decision. The team may escalate faster, review related permissions more carefully, and widen its search for additional signs that fit the same pattern. The internal event becomes more meaningful because it now sits inside a broader, relevant threat context. This is what stronger security operations decisions look like. They are not based on fear or on headlines alone. They are based on the interaction between local evidence and outside intelligence that helps explain why that evidence may matter. The human side of this is important too. CTI is most useful when it improves judgment rather than replacing it. Analysts still need to think critically, compare claims to evidence, and understand the organization's own environment. Leaders still need to decide what risks matter most to the mission. Responders still need to interpret events carefully and avoid jumping to conclusions just because a report sounds familiar. Intelligence adds perspective, but it does not remove the need for sound reasoning. In many ways, that is the real lesson of this topic. Strong security operations do not come from knowing everything. They come from knowing what matters, connecting it to the environment you actually protect, and using that knowledge to make better choices under pressure. CTI helps with exactly that when it is handled with focus, humility, and operational purpose. As we close, the most important idea to carry forward is that CTI becomes powerful when it changes action in useful ways. It helps security operations teams prioritize better, detect more purposefully, investigate with greater context, and respond with a clearer sense of what may be happening and why. The value is not in collecting endless threat material or repeating alarming stories. The value is in turning relevant knowledge into stronger decisions. For brand new learners, this should make the topic feel much less mysterious. CTI is not just for specialists writing reports. It is a practical tool for helping defenders choose where to focus, how to interpret events, and what to do next. When intelligence is relevant, timely, and tied closely to real operational needs, it stops being background reading and becomes part of the decision-making engine that makes security work smarter.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.